The Zone Coverage Podcast Network.
They may be drinkers, Robin, but they're also human beings.
Hell yeah, let's get Stinko.
From the Cumulus Studios in Minneapolis, Minnesota, this is the Giles and the Goalie podcast. My name is Giles Farrell. Sitting next to me is Ben Remington.
Hello.
It still sounds like Elmo to me. It does.
Producing this otherwise fine podcast today is Tom Schreier.
An otherwise fine producer.
Yes, we had to invite our otherwise fine producer onto the show today because we needed to get access to the building.
Yeah.
This is how you do it. I'm going to tell KQ to keep you out until I haul my ass over here and let you in.
Well, we are podcasting here on Sunday morning prior to the Minnesota Vikings game. We meant to podcast last night, Saturday night, following the Twins Daily Winter Meltdown, but in vintage Giles and the Goalie fashion, we ran into some technical issues, so no show was recorded, and you all were deprived of a very well-lubricated show.
Yeah, we were pretty well lubricated,
were
I gotta
quite
say.
lit.
We
as
had
the
some
kids say.
delicious wings at Max Industrial, and
Yes.
Oh.
and it was after
Yes.
many beers.
We plowed through the.
I
Grand
know it
Market.
did.
Like,
That whole plate
the
of
2
wings was
pounds of
gone.
wings hit the table and
You get drunchy.
Oh man,
Drunchies.
we mowed through that in probably about 7 minutes. It
What?
was not even fair.
Compared to the average, compared to the field, where were you guys standing in terms of drunkenness? Like, did it get
The field at the Meltdown?
at the meltdown?
I think we were on par. There were certainly people drunker than we were, but there were certainly
Really?
people more sober than we were. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I
Wow.
think there was definitely people drunker than we were, because like we were
Yeah.
pretty. I mean, we had
I
a
had
pretty
to-
hearty
I had
buzz
to give
going.
away
but
my title belt.
That's tough. So you go out in the back alley and fight. I mean, the smart thing is, so is that Brothers,
Yeah.
for people that don't know. And the smart thing is they just have a massive bar down there, so they can kind of churn through like a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know? And
Yeah.
When I thought about it, I was like, yeah, it's easy to get drunk there.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Well, especially when like the free beers are 612
Yeah.
beers, which they're good beers. And
Yeah.
they're not low in ABV, so you get a couple of those in, and I hadn't eaten since breakfast, so
Very, very Giles-like.
a couple of
Very
those. Go, hey.
Giles-like.
Well, some years I showed up without food, so
Yeah.
I realized how much alcohol was in it, though, because I covered the Wolves game that night, and I like first walked in, and I was like, I got to kind of keep a low profile here
Right.
a little bit.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't even remember how many beers I had at the Meltdown, because I just handed my fiance my wallet and basically.
that's a bold move.
Yeah,
That is a
well,
bold move.
that's the deal, right? Like that's
I guess
that's the
that's
joke.
marriage.
That's how it works. So I was like, here, and she kept giving me beers. So I was like, all right, I'm perfectly okay with you having my wallet at this point.
She's fun.
She
Yes.
provides many beers.
It was a good crowd. It's a fun deal there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Minnesota Wild had a very short week. They had a bye week mixed in with 2 games we have to quickly cover here. The first of which came last Sunday, the game that no one will ever remember. The Minnesota Wild hosted the Vancouver Canucks following the Minnesota Vikings game at XL Energy Center. And the Wild drop this game 3-2 in overtime as old pal Tom Vanek scores a goal
Tom.
with 3:12 remaining in the third period to tie the game. Brandon Sutter wins the game in overtime.
It's amazing to me that he scored that goal being completely unable to skate. I don't know how that happens.
Couple notes here. I was following Russo obviously during it.
Uh-huh.
Tom Vanek is receiving paychecks from the Vancouver Canucks and your Minnesota Wild.
Yeah.
We paid Tom Vanek to tie the game.
Yeah.
And then Sutter, I think, had been out 21 games before hitting the game winner, right? I mean, I think he came out of nowhere to score that. But he was injured, right? And then came back.
Right.
Kind of a sad loss.
Yeah, really, the whole state on the whole was on such a high at that point that
All-time high, baby.
yeah, a high after that divisional win, that big divisional win that is going to mean so much after they lose today. That it just, nobody even really cared so much that they only managed a point against kind of a bottom feeder Pacific Division team. I mean, not bottom feeder. They are in the playoff hunt as well, but like a team that's just, I just don't think is a very
they're
good.
more out of it than they are actually.
Yeah, they're not as in it as the Wild
As
are.
I
But
pointed out, there's 8 teams within like 6 points of each other in
Right.
the Western Conference for like the last 4 playoff spots.
You did. So you put this out in your column, right? Your most recent one about how they should stand pat. Do you see this as a league with parity and a high level of competition, or is it a lot of mediocre teams? Because I think for the Wild, you have to judge that.
I see it as a lot of mediocre teams.
That's
Like,
kind of how I see it too.
I take it as the NHL's point system allows awful teams to hang around in a playoff race
yeah,
far too long because it sells tickets. That's
Yeah.
the sole purpose of why this point system doesn't change. A simple adjustment to giving regulation wins
3 points.
a third point would do so much more for good teams, but
So I agree with that, but it also has to be that it's a restrictive cap. Like you just can't really assemble a great team anymore.
kind of. I mean, and the fact that NHL executives can't kind of get out of their own way is another issue too. It just, you look at the teams that are struggling right now. Look at the Wild. Look at the Blackhawks. Those teams are very mediocre, but
the Blackhawks
They
are
have-
sinking.
yeah, but they have talent. Like that's just it. Like the Wild were one of the best teams in the league last year. The Blackhawks obviously are, kind of on the tail end of a dynasty, depending on how you see it. But they can't field competitive teams.
But okay,
they-
the Blackhawks are a great example, though. You have 2 players that you undoubtedly would give as much money as you could to, right? With
Sure.
Taves and Kane.
yeah,
And then you just can't build a team around them because you can't create depth because of the restriction,
right.
right? I mean, like, I look at it, like, the Pominville deal should not be that as restrictive as it was.
No.
You should be able to have a stupid Foligno deal and it doesn't kill your cap.
Yeah.
And it will. Like, with the
Well,
I mean, it was a bad
you
contract.
Don't
I'm
want
not
to have the stupid Foligno deal. Period.
right, but I'm just saying that
No.
shouldn't prevent you from building a team.
Well, to your point, they shouldn't have had to salary dump Pominville. Is what
That's
you're
what
saying.
I'm getting at. Yes.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And like because he was the only guy where you can make a case for Mikko, I guess too, but where he wasn't making what he was worth.
I mean, Koivu's contract, that extension is just straight up bad, right? There's
No, I don't think it's bad.
No?
He took a pay cut.
Yeah, but do you want him for 2 more years?
It's tough to say. I mean, now it's kind of revisionist, but
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's
it's,
fair.
I mean, he had a really good year last year. And
But the
so-
year before, he was really bad, wasn't he?
Yeah,
2
but
years
that
ago?
was
Couple years
under
before.
Mike Yeo.
Sure.
I think I said this at the time where I was just like, I like the extension, but I'll say it with the caveat that, he is up there in age.
Yeah.
And, last year he had a really good year after a couple of bad years. So it's possible that might have just been an anomaly.
Right.
But
Well, and I think that
center depth for the Wild wasn't
Right.
great. And
it's kind of the same situation where they ran into when they gave him the first contract where he was the only guy.
Or why you... I thought Russo brought up a good point here. There's this controversy, Besser and Eriksson Ek, right? And
Right.
the idea with Eriksson Ek is you add it to your center depth,
Yeah.
where Besser is
And
a
now
winger.
Eriksson Ek's playing wing all the
Right.
time.
And this just seems like this has forced you into a bad, what I see as a bad contract with Koivu, a bad, again, revisionist, bad trade with Hansel, right?
Well,
And
yeah.
you know what I mean? I mean, it
Good
just,
trade.
there's these kind of externalities that come with the
Right.
lack of development of centers, which is arguably, yes, a difficult
Yeah.
position to develop.
Yep.
I'm going to die on the Hansel trade.
No, I will too. I mean, in hindsight, did it not turn out? Of course, no, it didn't turn out. At the time, I still think it was a good idea. It was a
Which I mentioned in my article on zonecoverage.com, which you should read. But I said, the Wild went all in. They got the best center on the market, and we can push the discussion on if the Wild should have made that trade another day. But I still say they were right to make that trade. It just
I'm just saying if you had a guy in your system, you maybe would have tried that, right? And I mean, so the way I looked at it, I was at that Chicago game right before they made the trade, and it was neck and neck, kind of the slugfest, right? And I think it was in the third period. I mean, Taves just put Dumba on his back, like it was carrying him around, right, and scored. And I'm sure they looked at it and they're like, we got to have a guy on the ice at all times to keep him, because they thought that was a second round matchup, which everyone would have thought. Of course, they beat Nashville. Of course, the Wild beat the Blues, and there's their second round matchup.
Right. And so that's what I said too. He was damned if he didn't, because if the Wild, if things go differently and the Wild and the Hawks do face off in the second round, and he hadn't made a move at the deadline,
Taves eats you alive, right?
Yeah,
he just eats you alive.
You lose that series, and then people, the same exact jackoffs that are calling for Fletcher to be fired because of that trade would have been calling for him to be fired because he didn't make that trade.
Right.
We should have got out and got Martin Hansel. He could have shut down Taves. Would have won that series.
I mean, from what I heard, I actually would be curious what Sarah McLellan would say, given that she covered them. But I know Russo did not like Hansel. Like, he just straight up was like, I don't think, like, right when the trade was made, he's like, I just don't think. I think he was playing high up because the Coyotes are bad.
Well, that's a part of it.
Yeah,
all right.
I don't know. Sorry. Rehashing bad trades.
So the Wild lose against Vancouver on Sunday, and then everybody gets to go to their favorite southern vacation spot, have you? Or at least those who don't have children.
Right.
But then they come back Friday, late Friday practice, and Boudreau seemingly beats the crap out of them in practice. And the Wild come out Saturday against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And as I said on our YouTube game preview, I literally said, if the Wild can just put up a fight in this game, that's just a bonus, because it just, with the way teams come out of a bye week, it's just, you're going to get steamrolled. And you get to come out of the bye week against the best team in the NHL.
Right.
And I was completely expecting the score to be the other way around in this hockey game, but we got a 5-2 win for the Minnesota Wild over the Tampa Bay Lightning. First period goals from Jared Spurgeon and Zach Parise, Minneapolis, Minnesota native, on Hockey Day, Minnesota.
Why do they say he's from Bloomington, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why they say Minneapolis. I think, I don't know.
Don't people know about
Bloomington? In
Bloomington?
the official media guide, it lists Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Was that where he was born? Was he born at like HCMC or something?
I will abide by the Minnesota Wild PR.
Suppose I grew up in Shoreview. Supposedly that's St. Paul. It is a St. Paul address, right?
Sure.
But it's just weird. Doesn't Bloomington have a resonance with hockey fans because of the Bloomington Ice Garden and all kind of that goes with that?
You would think so.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, beef. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I don't know.
I even set up a comment for Tom on a tee, and he didn't hear it. So we'll
Sorry.
move on. Second period, Elk River native Nate Prosser gets the game-winning goal. His second career game-winning goal on Hockey Day, Minnesota.
Ooh.
The Wild add a couple goals in the third period. They win 5-2 over the Lightning.
There was a lot made on Twitter about Rao had the assist, calling it an assist.
We're going to get to this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kyle Rao, Eden Prairie native, called up for this game, which, as again, we will get to here in un momento. But
And you had it first,
yeah,
actually.
nobody remembers that.
No.
I do.
That's fine, though.
I'll be waiting for your apologies.
No, you early in the
On
day, you
Twitter.
noticed it on the transaction pages, and you're
Yeah,
like,
I
what the
caught
hell?
it.
Like, why didn't anybody
And then
announce this?
even Russo replied to me. He's like, "Yeah, they've been trying to get him up here," and I was like, "Yeah, that's weird. Maybe they are just gonna do that tomorrow before the game, like they usually do." But nope. A couple hours later, they called him up. Everybody seemed to forget that I pointed that out far earlier in the day. It's all right.
It's no credit in journalism anymore.
It's all right. I'm just here for gifts. That's my thing. So the Wild, I cannot believe the Wild won last night. I don't recall a whole lot of the game, but
I don't. I mean, I do remember watching it, and
I was also trying to
drunk enough,
keep
but-
track of the goal chance during the game.
oh my
but
god,
that lost count too.
Yeah.
So,
Well, of course. Don't worry, those will be done tomorrow.
skull chant.
So I
Lover.
have a confession. I
Oh,
thought
God.
you created your own name,
What?
your own Twitter handle.
Oh, no, that was
Do you even listen to this?
That was
podcast?
from Giles.
I can't keep up with all your gambling on this podcast. You guys are Colton Molesky.
we're the other gambling
disciples.
podcast. Yes.
Right.
We should just join Colton on the gambling podcast.
Double or nothing. You guys should. Gambling on hockey is so hard, though, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
But I've heard that Vegas loses the most money on hockey bet, sports books wise.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting.
Like the sports books do the worst on hockey. As
I thought you
opposed to
meant
other
the Golden
sports.
Knights were costing people money, which I was like,
could
that
see
sounds
that, too.
that sounds some
This-
mafia stuff. Going
Well,
on.
that's I don't know about that, but no, that's what I had been told. A guy, actually, a waiter that was a big Ducks fan, was talking to me about it. He talked to a guy at the sports book, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we'd lose our behinds on hockey betting, like as opposed to baseball, football, basketball, obviously."
If you listen to the Wild broadcast, it's just about the lucky bounces and the.
Oh my
Did you
God.
know the
tough
Wild are really
breaks.
good at home?
Yeah, the Wild are really good at home. I don't know if you heard that the Wild are really good at home. They're good at home. In the state of hockey, they're really good at the state of hockey.
Oh God, no!
I just thought about. Have they ever lost on Hockey Day, Minnesota?
Yes, they have.
recently?
It was a while back.
I was
going
going to say, because it feels like the last 5 years in a row they've won on Hockey Day, Minnesota.
I thought that. I think it was last year. I looked it up. I thought they never lost to Hockey Day,
Right.
Minnesota, but they did. I think it was to the Ducks a few years back.
Sounds right.
Mm.
But they did a good job with that setup, by the way. St. Cloud looked like the place
Yeah,
to be.
except for the part in the first period of the Duluth St. Cloud women's hockey game when the feed just went out altogether.
Oh, yeah, I
Oh,
was
is that
watching
not
it.
great?
Minutes.
Yeah, they had the technical difficulties page up, and
I guess there was like a power surge or something.
Oh.
So,
but it's got to be incredibly hard. I mean, even if it was unseasonably warm,
which was
it's gotta be
funny
hard to set
because
that stuff
10
up.
minutes
Yes.
before that, I did the game preview and I actually praised FSN for their broadcast of Hockey Day Minnesota every year. That they always put on they do a really good job.
They do.
Of
Yep.
putting that
No,
on.
it's
And I said,
always a good time.
as much crap as I give them, they do a really good job on Hockey Day Minnesota. Then, of course, 10 minutes later, the
the feed
power
goes up.
surge.
The bigger issue there is that they should just rotate. Like, I'd like to see Chorsky call a game. I think that'd be interesting to have insight. No?
I don't know about George. Like, I guess I'd be open to see how he does that game, but I
Yeah.
don't
But
know,
I didn't think Wes
I
Walls
think-
would be that good, and Wes Walls, I
Wes
think,
Walls
is their
is
best
amazing.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the issue with Walls and why they haven't made that move full time is that Walls is very dry.
It's true, but he
And-
knows what he's talking
Oh
about.
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love hearing what he says, but Greenlay is like a caricature compared to Wes Walls. He's back there, doing all stupid. He's just like this.
He
He's
sounds
like
like
this,
a Muppet.
Yeah, he's like this circus clown in the booth. Like, oh, look at that there. He slashed him good, And that's that's
kinda-
what Greenlay is.
You
You
kind of
know?
sounded like a Flintstones.
Yeah, you can
Or like, no, like Yogi the Bear. Hey, boo boo.
Hey, Tony Pence. Dubnik's complaining about another goaltender interference call.
All right. So we had two newsworthy things this week. We're going to quickly transition out of there.
Right.
The
Run screaming from that topic.
Tom is going to collect
Wait for you.
himself
Tom
here
will
in the
recover
next
in the
5
next
minutes.
15.
But the two newsworthy things we had this week was the Wild come out of the bye week and they announced Nino Niederreiter will be out past the All-Star break with his injury, and not good news.
No.
As I also pointed that out in my article about standing pat at the trade deadline, that if Niederreiter is going to be out for an extended period of time, and it sounds like this is something he's going to just be dealing with all year, you're adding another thing to the list of things you need, where you would need a top 6 or maybe the top 9 winger to fill the hole of Niederreiter, because that Michael Russo pointed out, this is probably not something that's going to get corrected until the offseason, which is not good news if you're big fans of Niederreiter like we are.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't so when Suter hit him. That's not related, right? That was like a leg thing.
It's still related
is
to the
ankle
thing from Chicago,
right?
Yeah. Which I have a gif of.
Right. So yeah, that's just brutal because we've pined for Niederreiter to get more minutes and more minutes, and like that is what we one of the many things that we believe is going to lead this team to playing better down the stretch. And now you don't have that. And it's like, well, now you're plugging in, and no disrespect to Kyle Rao, but like now you're plugging in Kyle Rao, the Zach Mitchells of the world. Maybe at some point you can get Luke Cunnin up here. And that's maybe the best case scenario, but
I didn't know this, but Luke Cunning's been banged up down in Iowa.
Yeah.
I think he missed a game or two with injury, but I think he's back in the lineup now.
But yeah, I mean, as well as Sam Annis is playing in Iowa, like he's not Nino Niederreiter. So
insider info from our friend Brandon Slyke.
Right.
You can now get Sam Annis jerseys at the Iowa Wild store.
Oh, that is tremendous.
Yes. Guess who's getting one next time he goes to Iowa? This guy.
That is tremendous. But yeah, no, it really. I retweeted this morning, moneypuck.com. They do great analytical work with, kind of breaking down the advanced stats. They put the Wild at a 25% chance to make the playoffs at this point. And, that...
Oh, boy.
Right. And so I had a fan of the show, Josh, ask me, well, where were the Predators last year at this time? Because, the Predators didn't have a tremendous regular season, obviously. They ended up in a wild card spot. So I looked it up. I scrolled all the way back on Money Puck's projections. Last year at this point, on January 22nd, they had the Predators at a 70% chance to make the playoffs. And they ended up in the wild card. So, and at this point last season, and I retweeted this as well, but the Canucks and the Winnipeg Jets were at 35% to make the playoffs. So while I have less of a chance right now than the Canucks or the Jets of last year. And this is skewed because the Jets are good this year, but you have to remember how bad they were last year.
Well, here, I'll read off the standings here as we record, because as I also noted in that article, there is just an incredible logjam in the Western Conference. So you have, first I'll put the Pacific Division, because you've got Vegas there, 64 points, far and away leading. But then you have San Jose at 56 points, Calgary 55 points, and then you get into the wild cards. You have Dallas at 58 points, and they're just now a point behind St. Louis. And then you have Colorado, who has won 9 in a row at 55 points, holder of the last wild card spot. And they own the tiebreaker over Minnesota right now because they have 2 fewer games played. And then you have the Wild at 55 points, the Kings at 53 points, the Ducks at 53 points. And then you have Chicago at 50, who is slowly fading now that Corey Crawford might be out for the whole year.
Right.
And then that's when you dip into the Edmonton, Arizona, Vancouver area, which nobody's coming back from. But this is not good.
How is that calculation made? Is that based on...
There's a lot of algorithms.
Okay.
We got to get somebody who knows a thing or two about code.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Hans in here.
Yeah, it's obviously not, and for some reason their algorithm absolutely loves the Boston Bruins every season. I don't know why.
Huh.
Because
every time I look at Money Puck,
because their puck possession stats are incredible.
Right. So every time I look at Money Puck, Boston Bruins are like the best team in the league somehow. But aside from that, I think obviously there's some issues with it, but I think it's pretty stark. And another follower, Tim, replied to my tweet saying that Dom Luszczyszyn's model has the Wild around 45% to make the playoffs.
And
that's still less than a coin flip.
Also, half the teams make the playoffs.
It also, what probably really heavily factors in there is the Wild are last in the NHL puck possession.
Yeah. Oh no. And that's what hurts them. But this team still. I mean, they were terrible at it last year too.
Basically, they have to ride a high PDO to get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Which, as most analytics guys are going to tell you, is not a sustainable thing.
Not going to happen. And you need Dubnyk to basically carry that PDO because you can't. If anything.
And you know what? It's entirely possible.
Shooting percentage
he can get hot at some point. He hasn't yet.
Right.
He's due for a hot streak at some point here, and you just hope that he
lasts a long
goes
time.
at the right point. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's tough. So they are less than a coin flip at this point for the playoffs. So I think that that kind of definitely feeds into your article about standing pat at the deadline and all of this kind of the general attitude around the team.
I even suggested in that article that because the Wild have 3 third-round picks, they could, in theory, trade into the second round.
Yeah.
which I know is a foreign concept to everyone.
Well, the last second-round pick they got has turned out pretty well so far. I mean, he hasn't
Zucker?
been- no,
Jordan Greenway.
Oh yeah.
And
Olympian.
So yes, the only wild Olympian.
That
So yeah,
dude,
that turn. I mean, that's turning out pretty well, and we'll see what actually happens when he comes up to play professionally. But that looks pretty good so far. So it's like, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if they.
It's crazy Greenway. Like I was at that draft and that dude is huge.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy he went in the second round. And now they're saying if you redrafted he'd be a first rounder. No,
The Wild-
for sure. But
I think he was very raw though, talent wise. Like he
Yeah.
obviously is
Yeah.
a monster, but I don't
I
think
think-
that he had an overabundance of hockey skill at that point.
If I remember right, somebody who does a lot of draft coverage described Jordan Greenway when he was picked as a literal boom or bust
Yep.
pick.
Well, we covered that draft too back on Wild Extra, and you basically said
No
the
one
same
reads
thing.
draft coverage.
No. Why bother? That's what it was. That was that was the Eriksson Ek draft, and Eriksson Ek was the complete opposite. I mean,
That's why.
it was very much a high floor draft pick, which a high floor Scandinavian draft pick from the Wild. Who would have saw that coming? But yeah, that's exactly what it was, the polar opposite from the Eriksson Ek pick. And maybe at some point we'll get people to stop talking about Brock Besser. I don't know.
yeah.
Not so much.
The other newsworthy thing of the week, the short week, was Kyle Rao was recalled from Iowa on Friday afternoon to practice with the Wild. He played in the game Saturday night against Tampa Bay. He only played 6:56, obviously. He's on the fourth line with Ennis and Marcus Foligno, but he had an assist, so it made the only Minnesotan did not score in the game last night was Alex Stalock.
Uh-huh.
So
Yep.
there you go. Nice little thing. I think if I remember right, Russo tweeted out that like very few players from Iowa, and Kyle Rao is one of them, can be called up just because of how their contracts are.
Right.
Like because he's one of their cheapest players, so that's why he got the call up.
Right.
Probably over, Justin Kloos or Annis or
Mhm.
somebody else who's
Yeah, because
playing
he was
well.
essentially
Mitchell.
a minor league free agent.
Yeah, so that's why he was called up. But good to see, and
Play the Rouser.
Sorry.
he was wearing a
I will
number
sometime.
37. Do you have strong opinions on this?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't. Should anybody actually be offended by that?
No,
Like,
and I think
I mean, we all like Wes Walls, but I just don't think that his number was going to be retired at any point.
no. It just I mean I'm sure there are people out there. Balls as a saint. How dare you?
Yeah, but those are the same people doing the skull chant at Wild games. So, so I almost dropped an expletive right there, but blank them if you feel me.
I really just want to start a school just to drive it home.
Wallace has not had a comment on this, right? I mean, he wisely is just
No,
kind
what,
of
how would
right?
he care? I don't
Yeah.
think he cares.
It just went so long. Like Josh Harding switched to 37,
yeah,
and now the number's gone unused really since. And
right.
good.
It's not like you were retiring for Josh Harding because of
Rao's
MLS.
not going to get number 7
No.
like he wore in college and high school. He was wearing a weird number in Florida. I think it was like 92 or something.
Yeah, he was.
So, weirdly enough, my tweet about Rao getting called up got picked up by some Florida fans. So,
Huh. You managed to find your way into other Twitters
weird
often.
Twitters. Yeah.
I don't very often. Once in a great while. Like I got sucked into a little bit of Avs Twitter last weekend, and that was
yes.
tire fire.
Dangerous area.
that gif of Dubnyk just steamrolling the guy who came into the crease. That gained traction in Avs Twitter. And oh man, the restraint that I had to have to not
you, Giles.
blast these.
You can edit that later.
Yeah, I got some work for myself.
Yeah. No, and
It was so annoying.
oh, I know Avs Twitter is the worst. Oh my god, the worst.
Ooh.
And
Topic du jour.
Mhm.
Who's worse, Avs Twitter or Eagles Twitter?
Vikings Twitter.
Correct.
Yeah.
Always guess C.
It's always Viking. The answer to any question of which is worse is always Vikings Twitter.
Woof.
Fair.
I mean, let's be honest.
Oh God.
All right. So those were the early newsworthy things of the week, and it's a short week, and we've tangented enough here. So we will look ahead to the next week because
Ooh, I got news. Breaking. Granlund is sick, says Boudreau. It's
Okay.
from Michael Rousseau right now.
Sure.
I just saw that.
Yep.
Thank you, Tom.
Granlund has the Hershey squirts breaking.
Ah.
What the hell?
Well, if he had a cold, they wouldn't be reporting that. I mean,
That should be the title of this podcast, but no, I don't think I don't have the stones to make it.
you can just call it Hershey squirts if you want.
No.
No?
Okay. Previewing week ahead, Monday, Minnesota Wild hosts the Ottawa Senators, closing out the homestand. And the Ottawa Senators still remain a tire fire. And last week, Pierre Dorian was quoted as saying on Erik Karlsson, even Wayne Gretzky was traded. I kid you not, he said that.
That guy is so dumb.
You know what's? I have a story to share since we don't have a lot to talk about, so I will share the story.
Sure.
Because, in the summer, I started kind of teaching my girlfriend, hockey, because obviously this is going to be a thing that she probably wants to know a thing or two about. And I taught her about Wayne Gretzky being the best player that ever was.
Sure.
And she picked up that phrase. Even Wayne Gretzky was traded. So when sometimes she'll like to joke with me that, or it's kind of like a joke / threat. She'll just kind of go, yeah, even Wayne Gretzky was traded. So can you.
That's ballsy.
So yeah, that one came back to bite me. It's a good burn. She likes to use that sometimes.
Did you tell her about how Mario Lemieux was actually probably better, but his career was shortened by injury?
We haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
It's
It's a little complex, I guess.
I can imagine the press conference with Giles. He's like Wayne sitting there crying.
So speaking of Mario Lemieux, after the Monday night game in Ottawa, the Wild go to Pittsburgh Thursday and play the defending Stanley Cup champion Penguins. Reunion for former Penguin Matt Cullen.
Does Cullen end up in their locker room
Actually,
after the game?
He'll actually probably get his Stanley Cup ring if I
Did he
think
get
right.
already?
Because I think like when players leave the team, they wait for them to come back when they visit to give them the ring. Just because then they can have like a little thing for him.
Think he'll get a
whatever.
sweet tribute video?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Unlike Palmer and Scandella?
yeah, why would you want to do that?
No.
But those are the only
They
two
have
games.
regrets, that's why.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go on.
No, those are the only 2 games of the week for the Wild. As following the Pittsburgh game, they go into the All-Star break. All-Star game next weekend in Tampa, Florida. Eric Stahl will be representing the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah, I still, I may get around to watching the skills competition, but
Apparently they revamped some things. We don't know what they are, but
every time they do that, it just gets worse. I don't know.
fair.
The All-Star game is so bad. And it's not Pro Bowl bad, don't get me wrong. It's watchable, but barely.
I don't watch it.
I don't either, to your point. I don't either, but I could, and it wouldn't physically pain me the way that if I was watching the Pro Bowl would be equivalent to waterboarding me. I feel like it would, because I hate the NFL enough as it is. I can still watch football. I'm very much watching the playoffs, obviously, as they happen in the NFL. But the Pro Bowl is, it's not close how much it's the worst sporting event. Not even All-Star game. It's the worst sporting event of the season.
One league is going to figure out it's the distinction of being an All-Star that matters more.
Yeah.
And I think the NBA is kind of closing in on that, where they have a celebrity game and a skills comp. Eventually maybe they're just going to move away.
Well, and
from
the
game
NFL
itself.
is exceptionally idiotic because they do the Pro Bowl and then they have to replace half the roster, and then you end up with like these joke Pro Bowlers,
Right.
And it's just like, you've got the 10th best quarterback in that conference in the Pro Bowl.
Right.
And it's like, well, it doesn't mean anything anymore. Like, you've had so many alternates, you've replaced so many people just to play this trash football game with terrible jerseys, and nobody cares.
I really think especially it'd be hard to do with the NHL. They almost should just have like something cool like panels where they like reflect on the season or something. And like I feel like something like that would be more engaging than
Yeah,
I don't know.
I didn't mind the All-Star game the way it was. I mean, this whole 3-on-3 thing is, I don't know, it's kind of gimmicky, and I was over it before it even happened, kind of thing. But yeah, the skills just leave it at the skills competition. I don't know.
So I was thinking about this. Like a lot of their special events are getting bad. Like who's watching the Winter Classic when it's Buffalo and New York? They have all these stadium series.
Right. Nobody's watching those, especially with we'll get into that later. But
why wouldn't you replicate the Hockey Day Minnesota? Like have that game go outside. And like do that in other locations, like promote the sport, play at the youth levels or something.
Other places are starting to pick up on Hockey Day.
I know
last weekend.
Yeah,
there was a Hockey
that.
Day, Southern California.
Yep, I saw that.
Yeah,
capped off by a Ducks-Kings game.
Well, I'm sure Fox Sports, being the national entity that they are, figured out how well FSN does with this Minnesota bit and was like all over it. Even though it's not. I mean, it's the whole state of hockey BS thing, but I'm sure it doesn't do as well as it does here.
Would you rather the Wild be in the Winter Classic that runs against a bowl game, or would you rather have the Wild just play outside on a day that they're celebrating hockey?
Yeah,
outside,
I'd rather do that. I'd rather see them on hockey because it was the whole Winter Classic thing was a really cool idea the first couple of times where it was very interesting. They had the first one that was cool,
which was cool in the snow.
Then they had the Penguins and the Capitals at the peak of the peak, it was this Cold War type thing. That was really cool. And after that, I have not given one flying F about a Winter Classic
because you're like, oh, Chicago's in it.
Yeah,
Surprise!
It's Philadelphia and
the weird Chicago-Boston. rivalry.
Yeah. Just so it's gotten so progressively worse. But yeah, I would rather see them play outdoors on Hockey Day in Minnesota. It would make way more sense.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be this forced thing. And I don't know why they try to compete so much with bowl games anyway, especially now with the playoff. The fact that they play because before with the BCS they had their big bowl games after just January 1st. Except for the Rose Bowl.
Point.
Rose Bowl was always on the first, but then they had the 4 really good bowls were later in the week. Now they have the 2 playoff games on January 1st. Why are you trying to compete with that? Those are the 2 out of the 3 biggest college football games of the season, and you're trying to shoehorn in hockey aside from that. It just doesn't make any sense to try to do that.
Yeah.
Well, we can sit here all day and complain about how the NHL is its own enemy.
We really could, yeah.
But we will move along here. On to our Bruce Boudreau quote of the week.
Hi, this is Bruce Boudreau. I don't see how in Toronto that they're calling it, unless it's a guy they just pulled in off the street that hasn't seen hockey before. If I were the fans, I'd be booing even more because they pay good money for this.
If you want it, don't just think you want it. Go out and f***ing want it.
I didn't think I was going to get a good Boudreau quote this week. Really no media availability until Friday night with the bye week, and you're hoping he has one gem in there before the game Saturday, and well, sure enough, he gave us one gem Friday night from the Athletic, Michael Russo's story from Friday night after the Wild practice. In the segment where he talks about the Wild not getting any help during the bye week, and that Central Division teams went, I think it was 11-0-1 before the Wild played Saturday night.
Yeah.
Which was just ridiculous unto itself. But when asked about how he felt on the Central Division doing so well over the Wild's bye week, Boudreau says, and I quote, "I did a lot of swearing at home. When you're watching every night and every Western Conference team is winning, it sort of angers you. It is what it is. I'm just glad we're back here playing. What's going to be difficult is the All-Star break is next weekend. So now you have 9 days off and pretty well 6 days on. So there you go. Imagine that. Boudreau swearing.
Would you want to watch a hockey game with Bruce Boudreau?
Absolutely.
I mean, it'd be entertaining. Right?
I mean, I guess.
I would do it for the intelligent or like the
he would understand the
inquisitive
game well.
value, but for the entertainment value as well. Yes.
I would, but man, I would just love to sit there and just pick his brain on X's and O's for like an hour. Like,
right.
That would be probably entertaining unto itself. But
well, yeah, that was kind of what Custance' book revolved around, right?
Yeah.
It would be basically like doing that. Like that's why Custance' book was so cool, is because he did that with really good coaches.
There'd be funny moments though, right? Where
Oh
he
yeah,
just
no,
loses it.
definitely.
Yeah.
Like that would be maybe the most fun part of it.
Right.
yeah. So there it is, your Bruce Boudreau quote of the week. Oh my God.
I cannot believe you just tweeted that.
Ben literally quote tweeted Russo saying Granlund is out sick, and he quotes hashtag Hershey squirts.
This is catching on, damn it.
It's not feeling good right now.
Yikes. So there it is. All right. On to our weekly wager.
Oh yeah.
What's your bet, sir?
Ah, yes, the bet. Okay, what the hell? It makes very little sense to bet when you cannot win.
What did we? Oh no, yeah, we already settled that.
I just thought of this on the way here, that last night I was distracted at Max,
Sure.
so I didn't get to pay the bet from last week.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Which, at the beginning of the year, did you think when you started this weekly wager segment you would bet on the Vikings to win a playoff game?
Given what my strategy was with betting on the Vikings to win last week, I could see myself doing it for the exact purpose that I did it. Because losing the divisional round just isn't quite textbook heartbreaking Vikings enough. So I could have envisioned myself doing that. I could have, honestly. Like not in a I want them to win kind of way, but just in a I think they will win kind of way.
You needed them to win to even the score in the weekly wager.
They did.
But wrap your head around this. You, Ben Remington, needed the Minnesota Vikings to win a playoff game to even the weekly wager score.
Yeah. I was not confident going into that game. I knew I was up a creek.
What
Up
would
the
be the
Hershey
wild?
Squirts Creek.
Oh, stop! That's explicit content. That's explicit.
He's got to
content.
bleep that later.
Oh God, I'm gonna squirt my way out of here. What would be the wild Stefan Diggs moment? Could they have something like that?
The Niederreiter goal maybe was. I mean, it was in the first round of the playoffs, but
And Granlund doing
that's
maybe the Richard Park overtime goal against the Canucks.
I'd say the Diggs moment for the Wild is the Brunette goal. Because
that's fair. That's fair.
Because they went to the
Avalanche, right?
Western Final.
Yeah,
And he beat Wah like a.
yeah, that was that literally,
You know what?
literally retired
All
Patrick
these
Waugh.
all these great plays mashed up to the Titanic soundtrack, and we haven't gotten the Brunette goal mashed up to that. That's a project for me this week.
Yes,
Thank
it
you
is.
very much.
There you go.
Huh.
GIF master.
I'm with my new computer.
Not that one.
Not this one that can't handle
this
Microsoft
one,
Word.
This one will die.
Yeah.
All right, what should we wager on this week? We can't wager on the Vikings game because both you and I have picked the Eagles to win in our zonecoverage.com staff prediction.
Did anyone choose against the Vikings?
Me and Ben.
We both did.
We were the only.
Gotcha.
We were the only two on the
did not.
site to do it.
The only two with the balls to pick the Eagles.
I'm on record saying the most disappointing thing to happen this year would be the Vikings going to the Super Bowl at home, losing to the Patriots because it's so Minnesota sports.
I'm with you on that, but see, here's the thing, and I think if the Vikings make their home Super Bowl and they get their ass savagely kicked, I think Vikings fans, as mentally ill as they are still going to hang their hats. No, they absolutely will still hang their hats on the fact that they were the only team to ever play in a home Super Bowl.
But isn't it? It's
mentally ill as they are.
This is tweet pass coming up.
I mean, their commander in chief is the Vox. So
yeah, well,
there you go.
don't even get me started.
But my thing is, look at the Twins couldn't get past the Yankees, right? The Wolves lost to the Lakers the one year they went on a playoff run. These teams always seem to run into the dynasty on kind of a fun, you know, like
the Wild ran into the Blackhawks 3 different times.
Right. And it's that little brother syndrome that you're like, you're good enough to really cultivate a fan base and be entertaining to watch. Now the Wild are stretching that a bit this year, but you know what I mean? But you're not good enough to like
forever.
get through. Yeah, right. That was such a great analogy. I was crying when I heard that. That's so good.
Jamie told me last Sunday, she's like, Giles, you really enjoyed that way too much that he made a Batman Forever reference.
It just fit in because you cited The Dark Knight just before that. So, I don't know what to even bet on. We bet on if there's riots or not after they lose today, or
So did you see this sounds so gross, but they greased the poles so people wouldn't climb them?
Yes.
There's got to be something related to that. Someone like tries to climb up one and
I'm surprised they didn't just like cage up all the horses so no idiots punch a horse this time.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. I mean, I remember that we were talking about the Gophers beating North Dakota the .06, right? Because that's the closest analogy
Tom,
to.
No.
What?
Not. I can't go down that road today.
Okay, I'm sorry, but it is a good analogy to the Diggs moment. And,
it is.
And I was down in Dinkytown there, and they had horses mounted with police. I'm so concerned about what you guys are doing right now.
No, it's not. It's not that bad.
You know, they had policemen on horseback,
right.
And I was like, in no way am I going to like. I mean, granted, I was sober, but like, this is so scary. Like, horses are giant animals.
Yeah.
And there's an armed policeman on top, and it's ridiculous. Someone just punched it.
So are Philadelphia sports fans, Tom.
Yeah.
Right, you're right.
They are big animals. I mean, let's call it like it is. Yeah.
Oh,
it's not the only, but it was the first stadium to have a jail built into the stadium as part of the architecture.
The Flyers, it looks like a jail cell with everyone in orange. Like it just does.
Those Broad Street bullies.
So what should we wager on?
Granlund's sickness, is it?
Well, I don't think we're ever gonna really know what that is.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah, I don't know.
We're at a loss.
I got nothing. I am.
How about I'm gonna look at the Wild schedule and come up with something.
We got the Senators and the Penguins. That's not really all that exciting.
No.
Vegas. God, they put the weirdest games on NBC Sportsnet. Vegas versus the Wild. I guess St. Louis makes sense, but
should we bet on anything All-Star related for next week? Skills competition?
We could.
Like they don't even have that set up very well.
Like we don't even. I guess we don't even know like what's exactly going on with the skills competition because for whatever reason they're keeping it all under lock and key.
Yeah,
because God forbid you promote your.
It's just like the expansion lists. Like when they were like, "Oh no, we're not telling anybody what these are," and it's like, "What? What do you mean you're not telling anybody?"
I read this week that when Seattle becomes the 32nd team, that the GMs are going to push for the list to be protected that time.
Well, because they look like a bunch of idiots this time. No, I would want it if I was them too, but that's not the NHL's prerogative, is protecting your idiocy.
It's bad when you can't think of something to wager because the team is just like that.
Yeah, I mean, wagering on wild stuff is just like had a whole lot of chutzpah this season for some reason. It just, I don't know.
What about the game in Pittsburgh? They beat the Lightning. No one expected that. Could they beat the Penguins?
The Wild are absolutely garbage on the road, though.
Yeah, and against the Penguins, too. They're not very good.
Tom, what's going on with the Wolves? Is there a big game coming up?
Yeah, let me look. They are on the road for the most part, which they have played poorly on the road against Eastern Conference teams for some reason.
Sounds familiar.
Right. I'm trying to think of what they immediately have coming up, and if there's, I mean, yeah, they're in a weird spot too because Jimmy Butler's hurt.
Ooh, Thursday.
They have 3 more. LA, Portland, Golden State are there.
Golden State. There's your game, folks.
They're in Golden State?
Yeah. That's coming up.
Waxed.
Yeah, probably.
Nope.
Yeah.
I'll bet the other.
I love it. I love it. I love this so much.
All right. Yeah, that sounds good. All right. Take the Wolves.
All right, there you go.
I'll be in California watching.
Thursday night.
In the Bay Area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Following the Minnesota Wild game,
but yeah,
you can catch the Minnesota Timberwolves and Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
You can probably catch a preview of that game on the Wolves Wired podcast, part of the ZoneCoverage.com network.
Love that plug. Have you done In and Out yet? You say
of course. Yeah.
You like Bravo Taco?
Yes.
Yeah. You know that
I need to go back really bad.
The Warriors thought about playing in San Jose's arena, but I guess it's so bad for basketball they couldn't justify it.
Really?
If you saw Oracle literally looks like it's caving in. Like it's right by
it's
the
an S pile.
Yeah.
I've driven by it many times.
Yeah, it's a giant parking lot with the Oakland Stadium.
I was gonna say, isn't it right next to the Oakland
next
Coliseum?
to it.
So
Yeah.
literally, that is a giant sinkhole.
Yeah, pretty much.
With Hershey squirts that filtered into the stadium.
Hershey squirts in the dugout.
yeah, coming up through the floor. Oracle. I was amazed. Like I drove by it and I'm like, oh, that looks like a old building, and I had no idea that building was built in the 80s. Like, or no, it was older than that. It was built in like the 60s or something.
I think
It's way old. Like it wasn't. I thought it was like the 80s, and I looked up. It was like the 60s.
They're gonna have a new one in San Francisco.
Yep.
Which is
I heard that. That's kind of cool, but it's just like, man, it's crazy that the Bay Area it's so weird to me. It's like a fascinating area. There's so much going on, and there's so many different like distinct areas in the Bay Area that it's weird to me.
Yeah,
like Oakland and San Fran and San Jose are all so different. It feels like
Oakland's becoming more like San Fran because they're
gentrifying
it. No, because you can't afford San Fran, so people are going to Oakland.
Exactly. Well, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
So people with a little bit of money are moving in because the insanely rich people are hogging San Francisco.
And it's spread out along 110 and 280. There's just so much stuff there.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay.
There's your Bay Area update on the podcast.
Ben has evened the weekly wager score. It is 6-6.
Aha.
And he'll probably be realistically 7-6 after this one, but we'll see what happens. And
I think we should do the Twitter name thing again, or what should we wager?
Oh yeah, we have to.
Actually have to bet something.
Yeah.
Jamie has to come on the pod at some point. She needs to.
Well, that's
already.
That's already gonna happen.
She's gonna air grievances at some point.
This is the forum.
Yeah.
Oh God.
If we didn't have the technical snafu, it would have been on
this
very show.
And she was
she was ready to go.
She was very ready,
locked and loaded
last night. Yeah.
Boy, I don't know. What if we go with Twitter picture?
All right. Yeah.
So the next week the loser has to
for
put up
week.
a Twitter picture from the winner.
All right. Fair enough.
There you go. There's your weekly wager. And last but not least, on to our favorite segment, the jerseys.
Here to start the third period. What team is this? It's not Team USA. Well, yes, it is. They've got on new uniforms. They're wearing the logo of the Duck. I've never seen this before.
Jersey of the week is the Ottawa Senators. And Ben and I have very strong opinions on their uniforms right now. As we were very
that was the one I did not know why they didn't change.
We were very disappointed with their Adidas jersey switch or lack thereof.
Yeah, very lack thereof.
We were kind of led to believe that we were going to get a big switch from them.
Yeah, they were on the list. They were saying there were 6 teams doing a total redesign. And at the end of the day, the Wild were literally the only team that actually had... I mean, there were some teams that did some minor changes. But the Wild were the only ones that fundamentally changed their jersey, other than like some striping stuff.
If you count changing the number font on your jersey, yes, the Ottawa Senators completely changed their jersey look.
Yeah, no, it's still the same tired logo and the same tired scheme that just doesn't really look all that good.
Do you think they should just go with the big O?
You know, I'm not big on the big O.
As a man, you know where my allegiance lies. Marvin the Martian. Bring him back. Bring him back.
Tom's literally wearing a Marvin the Martian shirt.
I'm wearing the Senators logo. This is their new jersey. I love that.
You know what's funny is at the beginning of the year, one of the Senators beat writers tweeted out that the Sens put the big O logo at center ice, and they had a picture of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I didn't do this, but I wanted to quote tweet it and go, man, that's really bold of the Senators to troll the Blackhawks on the number of playoffs wins last year.
Oh God, I think the Big O is a great third jersey.
I'm not as big on it.
Bring Marvin.
The big
Marvin back.
I didn't mind their heritage jerseys, the heritage classic jerseys, or the NHL 100, whatever you want to call it, the NHL 100 celebration they had. I didn't mind those jerseys with the O on it quite as much because it had like a flag behind it kind of thing. I just think they need something new altogether. I don't think they need to rehash the Big O. I don't think they need to, go back to the original Marvin the Martian. I don't think they should use the current one they're using at all. I think they need something completely new.
Like Sens just across.
Yeah, don't ever do that. Just, anytime your jersey can be confused for Super Nintendo, like, just let it. Like, I don't know. There's everything they've done has been so bland and like so. I don't know. It just feels like they have like a palette they could work with there. And they just need to come up with something totally new, like completely new. Not necessarily a huge departure from where they're at, but just something new.
I think they need to make the primary home jerseys black.
Yeah, I would like that.
I think black with like
That's
red
cool.
trim and like once they introduced the red alternate in like '98 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like then it's just been trending towards.
It was
the
like
red.
the Wild, right? The Wild should not have had red permanently.
Right. Like I don't mind the red. It just I think the black is just a better look, and
We're gonna have to do
You've
something
already
to sell
got-
jerseys after they ship Eric Carlson out of town.
You've already got too many teams in Canada wearing red. You've got the Flames. You've got the Canadians. Like, kind of try to differentiate yourself a little bit. Go with a black jersey.
Right.
I don't know. That's just my opinion. So yes, a black jersey is what I would like to see from the Ottawa Senators. And
Well, this is I mean, we were talking this season about third jerseys for them, but I think and I don't get why you wouldn't do how the Wild did it was right. They came in, Adidas came in, they changed their jersey. Like they took that opportunity to change their jersey, and now if I hate to say it because I hate this term, but like now that Ottawa has waited, like if they change their jerseys next year, like that's a cash grab, where they have the Adidas jerseys that were basically their old jerseys for one season, then they change their jersey design, like
the Ducks are.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why are you waiting a season to do it? Like, you couldn't come up with a jersey design in 1 year. You're a goddamn NHL team. Like, you don't have the resources to change your jersey in under a season. Like, you knew this Adidas deal was coming. Like, what the hell?
I know some people who could consult.
I know. Yeah, whatever the Senators do, just run it by Giles and me first. Like, that's all that we ask is just, like, let us know. Shoot us a PDF before you actually release the jerseys.
Just consult with us.
Along with a check, and just make sure that it doesn't look horrible.
What jersey was just released?
Oh, the Washington.
Oh, God.
The Caps jerseys, Giles. The Caps. Yeah. They're not
Literally,
the Capitals. They're the Caps.
I quote tweeted that, and I said, someone got paid to design those jerseys. And then you quote tweeted that, and you added the NHL and said, you could have just picked up the phone and called us.
Right.
Putting caps, CAPS, on the front of the jersey is bad.
Yeah.
You had a missed opportunity with the Eagle logo that you have to put that on the jersey.
I know.
Especially considering you are playing this game
in Maryland
on the bloody Naval Academy.
Right. I know.
What in
the
are you doing?
It's a two-smart podcast.
Can't even Washington Capitals jerseys right, NHL.
Yeah, I don't know why they run. I mean, I get it. Like, maybe they're a little ashamed of the teal phase they went through. I get that. I mean, it was the 90s and everyone was doing teal, so you feel ashamed that you fell into that fad. But it was still a good logo. And something that, you could reuse or, like, at least modify to use now. They could have totally used that Eagle logo. And
I love that.
I liked
Oli
it
the
too.
goalie?
Yeah. I liked it too. And, like you're saying, like, it would have worked perfectly. You're playing on a naval base. Giles is absolutely right. I don't understand how they go, oh, no, you know what's going to work great for this game that's on a naval base? A nickname of our team. Okay, like, it goes back to the Sens thing. It's just stupid. Don't do nicknames of your teams. And the last week we talked about the Bolts. Don't do it. Just stop.
I think it was Pete Blackburn who put it out there. He put the jersey, and it was Ovechkin modeling the jersey, obviously.
Yeah.
And then he put right next to it a picture of the Russian flag and how identical they looked.
That's how close it was.
It's just sad. They have such great jerseys that they should use all the time.
Oh,
right?
those throwbacks are just amazing.
I'm going to get Chris Long on this podcast.
Oh, please
And
do.
we're-
Please, Chris.
We
is
are just
great.
going to spend a half hour
Complaining about
going on about the
Capitals
Capitals. The Capitals, the jerseys,
the-
all of it.
the lore.
I have a off podcast Chris Long story for you guys.
Oh, great.
Perfect.
I'll tell you. Sorry, listeners.
All right. I think we covered that pretty good. I think we are good to go here. That's really all we had. It was not a whole lot to talk about, and we tangented down a road for a little bit.
Yeah,
so,
luckily we brought in Tom to spice things up a little bit.
Yeah, otherwise, I don't know. You
And
and
to
I
provide a
probably-
laugh track.
Yeah, you and I probably.
Heather
would've
and I just
struggled.
want some sort of role here.
We got an all-star show coming up.
Love it.
Yeah, that I should have promoted that earlier.
Yeah.
Next week we are having a special show next week, an all-star show. It's basically it's kind of a tinkered version of our Meltdown show from previous years. For our listeners who have been around for a long time, you'll know of our Meltdown shows. We didn't do one this year because we've kind of fine-tuned that into a show for All-Star Weekend for you. Next week, Tom, Heather, and then we have about, I think, 4 or 5 other guests. who are gonna
cavalcade
join.
of stars.
Yes. Dave Schwartz, Jesse Pierce, Derek Peterson from The Athletic, does their analytics work. And returning to the podcast will be the great Chad Graff.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get all of them actually on
Chadley.
it or not.
Yeah.
Like they've said they'll do it, but
Yeah.
they definitely have plenty of time to back out still. So, and I wouldn't blame them if they
Once
did.
they hear Hershey
we want-
squirts, like, I'm getting out of here.
It's
Yeah.
fair. That's totally
Chad's
fair.
going to listen to this just to see what's going on, and he hears Hershey squirts, and he's like,
He's
I'm
gonna
out.
see that tweet from me and
I'm
be
out.
like, I'm not talking to that guy.
No, so that's what you can look forward to next week. We're putting that together throughout the week just because we have so many guests, and just getting
See how it
them,
goes.
to come on is just, a demand on their time enough. So, doing it at, when they can at their leisure is, we'll be stitching that together throughout the week. So you can look forward to that next weekend. And then Ben and I, we'll record sometime, and then the next week we'll have a regular show, which will be in a special studio,
Yeah, Super Bowl Sunday.
making our debut
Bum, bum,
in the
bum,
Burnsville
bum.
studios.
Dum 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 bum 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 bum.
Tom is not happy.
Bum 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 bum.
We're going mobile.
Excited for that. We get to preview that Eagles Patriots showdown.
Ben's just excited he gets to record in his own home.
Hell yeah, I'm not wearing pants.
I'm not coming over.
Anchorman.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Tom is on Twitter at tschreier3. He covers the Minnesota Timberwolves, and in the summer he does Minnesota Twins coverage for zonecoverage.com. He is the commander-in-chief of zonecoverage.com. He
Stable
takes to
genius.
Twitter a lot less frequent than the current one who resides in the hole office.
You should start a fight with Panda Pete just to
I love Panda Feed.
just to have the symmetry there.
Yeah, I'm
Just go after a Korean for no reason. I think Pete would enjoy it. I think he would. He would find it funny.
Yes,
damn
that's
it.
where you can find Tom. Ben Remington is on Twitter at Ben Remington. He is ZoneCoverage.com's resident columnist on hockey. He loves to bring you the hot takery every week. But I think this week he's got a special interview coming up.
I do.
You can find me on Twitter at Giles Farrell. I am the all things writer of hockey at zonecoverage.com.
You're the machine.
Dipping into the high school market. We'll have another story coming up this week. Checking in on an interesting story up with Centennial girls hockey. So you can look for that later this week. And then the usual stuff. Fun stuff ahead. So check for us there. Our Twitter is at GATG Wild Podcast. We will have a listener question coming back at some point if the host remembers to tweet that out during the week. You can find this otherwise fine podcast on iTunes. If you listen to us on iTunes, please drop us a 5-star rating. I don't understand why people left us 2-star ratings last week. If you're going to go with a 2-star, you might as well just make it a 1-star. Like,
that's a good point.
Like, what? Why? Just, we ranted enough on that last week.
It was a great rant.
We are also on SoundCloud. We do have a YouTube channel. We do post-game, pre-game shows on there at GATG Wild Podcast. And all podcasts can be found at zonecoverage.com. So that will wrap it up for us. Thanks to Tom for producing this show, letting us in the door, all that fun stuff. Thanks for listening, and as Tom laughs, we will catch you again next week.
Later.
It's not resiliency. You're making it sound like we're good. That's all. I'm done.